You're watching or listening to episode 123, 123 of the Unnecessary Nonsense podcast. And on this episode, Carlos gets groceries delivered in real time. We may discuss that. Dave's got other stories. We'll talk a little bit of AEW and more of the usual shenanigans, the kind of thing you're used to on this episode. This and more on this episode of the Unnecessary Nonsense podcast. On a cold Saturday, Carlos has a chocolate chip cookie, so all is good in the world. What's going on, Dave?
Thankful to the delivery driver who didn't stop trying, Carlos. Just kept going.
He did. So, long story short, I use Instacart. Not all the time. Sometimes most of the time I'll handle my own groceries, but sometimes, honestly, I don't feel like stepping foot outside unless I have to, and for the minimum amount of time. So I can actually, go through the app and find all the different things. And usually there's a couple of supermarkets nearby that have the stuff that I want anyway, and I'll get it delivered to me. I pay a premium for that, but I'm okay with that. But usually what is the struggle is the way that my condo complex is set up. It does confuse a lot of the drivers. So it is standard operating procedure for them to have to reach out and say, like, where's your place? Even though I try to leave instructions to give them a little bit of an idea, but they always come from the wrong direction. So it makes it harder. This one, though, called me, asked a couple of questions, and then kept going. And I was showing Dave before we went live is that on the app and everything, you can see sort of a GPS thing that kind of follows them along their path. And we noticed that he kept going, and he found the parking garage, and then he was on the wrong side of the parking garage, and then came across the parking garage, and then it showed, delivery. And then the picture and everything is like, you made it. Congratulations. Good for you. Mission accomplished.
It was impressive, actually, watching him make his way here.
Yep.
Considering where they started and the fact that they actually ended up in the right place.
Yeah. So I did adjust his tip up a little bit, for the extra effort, because there's literally an extra effort category, and it's like, you know what? You have earned this. You did put in a little extra effort, so I'll give it to you. So I ended up getting everything. So I've got my caffeine intake, and I got a chocolate chip cookie, and I'm solid. I'm ready to go for another glorious episode.
Life is good. All right, Carl. So I have a few stories for you here, okay?
Go ahead.
So first of all, from the, oh my goodness, I feel old category. All right. So having kids, one of the things we do, watch, cartoons. Right. And so my youngest Hamish has a Winnie the Pooh toy. And so I was trying to teach George, who's older, a little bit about Winnie the Pooh, who Winnie the Pooh is, and some of the characters in Winnie the Pooh. And we were watching the Winnie the Pooh song. And then, as you get your other videos that are related, there's this other one. I was like, oh, we can watch this one. So I click on it, and it's the intro from The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which was a TV show that I watched when I was younger. And I'm thinking to myself, when did I watch this show? I remember watching this show, but when was that show actually coming out? Because I was like, I think this was a 90s show. So it was like, when did it first air? 1988. When did it go off the air? 1991. I was like, this is brought to you by feeling old.
Yes, it is.
Do you remember that show?
I do, yeah. And I knew kind of conceptually what era it was, but it's one of those things where, look, if I need to feel old, TV shows aren't going to do it for me. Usually it's when I'm talking to somebody, especially if I'm doing, the sports card thing or whatever, and they're talking to me about context. Like one of the guys that I think I was chatting with about something where I was discussing it, they had actually joined OBC, which is that vintage trading card group that I was in years and years ago. And I was in there for quite a long time. And they joined it maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. But the thing is, they were born in 1991, which is the same year the group was founded. I joined the group in 1996. He was 5. And I'm like, Yep. Back then, I was the young guy in the group because I was already collecting vintage cards anyway and all that. But it's very interesting. That's where context. That's how you get the context of it. It's like, yep. Kids that are born in the 90s are in their 30s. Yep.
Yeah.
That's how you know. It's usually that, and when I go to the LCBO and I see, this is old enough to buy liquor. You just recoil and back away from the screen.
Yeah.
It's because what's going to happen, and it won't be long now, years ago it already reached the point where it's like, that's the year I started high school. And now it's going to be, that's the year I started university. And it won't be long now.
Yeah.
See, that's how you become old, Dave. Yours is amateur hour.
So, all right. So the next story for you. So I've been working on a few art collages lately. That's been my sort of focus on my drawing. And I did an Attitude Era one, which I think I've talked about on the program. But I also did what I would call my golden era of WWF, which for me was circa 1991. Was most of the characters. Anyway, I had something happen on Instagram, which was the first time it's happened to me, is that famous accounts, if you will, or the people that I've been drawing have actually liked my artwork. Like,
Mm-hmm.
clicked the button and commented on it. So this week, out of two things, first one, I had Demolition like my collage where they were in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And I also, unrelated to the week before, I talked to them on the podcast, Carlos. They were on the podcast and I talked to them.
Oh my God.
And the other one, believe it or not, I drew a Paw Patrol collage. Here, I will show you, Carlos, because
What? Sorry, repeat that.
so this is like a kids' TV show.
Oh,
It's a Canadian
Paw
TV show.
Patrol.
Yes.
Okay. If it almost sounded like you condensed into one word, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. So George is all about Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
So I drew that and I posted it. So it's eventually going to go up in George's room once I get it framed or something to put it up in.
Yep.
But I posted that today, and the Paw Patrol, the official Paw Patrol Instagram account, liked it. There you go, Carlos. That's my week in a nutshell. I got artwork liked by Demolition and Paw Patrol.
Well, basically the same genre. Like, it's practically the same.
Yeah, because nothing says kids TV like spikes and leather.
Whatever you're into, man. Like, we don't judge here. It is what it is. But fair enough. It's fair.
Also, I also appreciate, and you may appreciate this too, because you like little references to things. Okay, so Demolition's Instagram account is not actually at Demolition or at Demolition WWE or anything like that. Okay, it is at Search and Destroy You, which is a line from their intro song, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, I also think I'm pretty sure demolition's been used.
Probably.
Like if you tried to use demolition is just as a word, it'd be like, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure, but I mean,
Yeah.
Real Demolition or Demolition WWF or
Could you imagine though, like you go real demolition and all it is just pictures of like, I'm going to destroy this wall.
Let's see. I'm gonna look that up right now.
Yeah,
and
real
see,
demolition. It's probably something
and
like
see
that.
what Real Demolition. I'm gonna see what these accounts are.
This is proper content, Dave. Proper
All right,
content.
I know. I think people need to know this. So anyway, if you want to follow Demolition, the tag team, it's at Search and Destroy You.
Yeah, okay.
But if you want to follow just regular Demolition, okay, so I just typed in Demolition, but it does not seem to give me anything.
Did you spell it correctly?
Yes. Well, I spelled it the way the tag team spells it.
Okay.
So it just gives me like Demolition for You, Search and Destroy You, Endless Demolition, and Genet Demolition.excavation.
Interesting. Maybe demolition was available and they just missed out on an opportunity.
There is, however, Real Demolition is taken.
Yeah.
Who's a music soul god.
Wow.
And has 4 pictures up.
As long as
Greatest
it's-
unknown artist.
And yet, he continues to be unknown, even as you said his name.
Right?
Moving.
Or they have Real Demolition Man.
Yeah, well,
Or
Demolition
Real Demolition
Man is at least
_official.
the movie. Yeah, Demolition Man is at least the movie, so that's something.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so a good, solid cheesy movie for the era, 80s movie. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think
I'm not gonna
it's
lie,
about as
that
far
was
down
that
this-
was a little bit of a letdown.
I feel like this whole segment is a letdown. I think I'm
You know, Carlos, just because Demolition isn't your favorite tag team of all time, just because you like Money Inc.
Yeah, both those characters are great. They didn't even need to dress up in leather and studs.
It's true.
Yeah. So now I think what I'd like to do now is I think I'd like to take a moment, Dave.
All right.
And
First of all, sorry, before you take this moment,
Yeah.
can I issue a mea culpa?
Oh, you may as well. Why not?
All right. I would like to go on record, even though I still could be right. I'm going to say I'm wrong and that baseball is not going to start on time.
Yeah, I think we're not quite there. I think there's a good chance that is the case. Yes. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to take a moment, to recover us from our demolition moment. Speaking of demolition, Tom Brady retired. So I think it's a good opportunity to take a second and have some thoughts about our good, dearly departed favorite quarterback of all time, Thomas Edward Patrick Larry David Beavis Butthead Brady. I think that's about right.
Okay, something like that.
Yeah, close enough. Whatever. So first, I'd like to begin with the goat of goats, outside of Ziggy Palfy, Ichiro, who once was quoted as saying, "Who the fuck is Tom Brady?" And I feel like that's appropriate. I feel like that's right. That's what should happen. That is actually a true story. He did actually say, "Who the fuck is Tom Brady?" I'll explain the story after.
If I didn't love Ichiro before,
like that, but somebody brought this to my attention, and I was like, Ichiro was already like a pantheon level guy as far as I'm concerned. He just elevated himself to like another tier of true greatness. But let me share some of my favorite moments, Dave.
Right.
This was a pretty good one. I rather enjoyed this one. This was great. And look, see, you guys got some New Orleans Saints content there for you.
I appreciate it.
Like that's pretty solid there.
Right? Him getting sacked. Well, not sacked, but tackled.
Yeah. Now, look at this one. This one's great. Now, here's my favorite part. So, like, this is great. I got, the Packers, they're just trying to help Brady out. He's kind of old. He was probably keeling over or something. They're trying to help him back up, But what I like is, I want you to look at his face. This is marvelous right there. Like
it is. It's a great picture. Where did you find? Did you make this? Is this a personal collage you made, or
no? This right here. This is what I got when I Googled Tom Brady sacked, and this is amongst the first ones that came up. So I was like, I need this. Like, just leave it. And now, what I was thinking with this one, Dave, is I kind of want this picture where whoever took it, full credit to them, but I want this picture, and now I want this in a 16 by 20, and I want to force Tom Brady to sign it. I want this. This is the only piece of Tom Brady memorabilia I want in my life. This is it.
Hey, you know what? I think that would be awesome.
Yep. Now let's look at some other. Like I said, I want to focus on Tom Brady's greatest moment, so that's already a pretty good one. But how about this one? He's there taking a nap on the field. Just hanging out with the football or something. He hears him taking another nap on the field. Apparently, he's very sleepy. He takes a lot of naps on the field. And this one's good. This one was in the Super Bowl, and this is where Tom Brady tried to do something athletic and failed. But again, the best part about it...
But some people will tell you he's the greatest athlete of all time, Carlos.
But once again, the best part is his face. Now, that's the face of a man right there who's like, oh, fuck, I'm not actually athletic. No, the ball. Now, some people would suggest, oh, but maybe he was worried about... There is nobody around him. Nobody around him for miles. Look at this picture. There is literally nothing preventing him from catching this ball. Nick Foles would have made that catch.
100% he would have.
Just saying, he would have made that catch. So, that's, already that right there.
But Carlos, let's be fair. He can't throw the ball and catch the ball at the same time.
At this point, apparently, though, he can't catch the ball, period. Regardless, he just can't catch the ball. Other than that, great. Now, before I conclude, so that right there would already be a beautiful tribute. We've got Ichiro in there. We had a little New Orleans Saints content. We showed him taking some naps, relaxing on the field, being chill and relaxed, trying to do something athletic and falling somewhat short. But the important thing, Dave, is that, like I said, I am not a person who leaves my trolling to the bare minimum. I refuse to simply do like, oh, anybody can Google search some pictures of Tom Brady. Anybody can do that. I made a small, brief video tribute, Dave. A short video tribute to some of my other favorite Tom Brady moments.
Before you show me this, since we're doing this, have you seen some of those the tributes, if you quote unquote, where it's like other sports teams and things were just kind of trolling him in their congratulations?
Yes, Dave, and I'm getting to that after my video tribute.
Oh, okay.
It is 1 minute. Could you
okay.
Let me just play the thing?
All right. Go ahead.
Professionals. All right, playing the thing.
To end it, the two of them together. Yes, I mean we'll never see this run again, Jim.
Brady's pass is intercepted and returned for a touchdown by Logan Ryan, the former Patriots. Watson, 4th down and 5. Brady, pass is broken up, incomplete, and the Chicago Bears are going to take over. DeAndre Houston Carson was there for Chicago.
I don't know, Brady. I think the way Brady reacted and hold up his fourth, I think he thought it was 3rd down.
Yeah, Brady's still standing out there. But that's 4th down, and it's Chicago's ball, and that's the end of the night.
It brings a single tear to my eye.
I feel there should have been more $1 Million Man in that at the end.
Yes, but I needed to show restraint. The point was I wanted to be beautiful, succinct. That was right about a minute. It was a beautiful. It brought tears to my eye. Like I should be in charge of the Tom Brady biography film. I think like that right there alone is like my candidacy to be the only person that can properly chronicle the career of Tom Brady. Because I pretty much covered 85% of his career right there.
Yeah, the problem is that somehow this video is going to have to come down now because you used a 2-second clip of something from the WWE.
Not yet. So far, I played that on my live stream. So far, so good. And I ran it through YouTube. So far, so good. So far, listen, it was transformative. I was paying tribute. Fair use. Fair use, sir.
I appreciate it. And then you got the Glorious in there as well.
Was it not glorious?
It was.
I don't think anyone's arguing with the gloriousness. But yes. So, and kind of in reference to what you were talking about, I got a kick out of. So the New York Jets was a good one, and I want to say the New York Giants was a good one. New York Giants. It was I think they were tweets from the two.
Who was the one that put it was like, congratulations on your retirement to the last Montreal Expos draft pick still playing or something like that?
Yeah. That one's fine, but who cares about that? No one cares about the Expos.
It's still funny.
No, the good one was my favorite was
the New York Giants.
Yes, here we go. Perfect. And I will share it. But yeah, no, I thought like some people got it. Some people understood like the right thing. Look at it. Breaking. Tom Brady, who lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants during his legendary 22-year NFL career, retires. That's right. Correct. That seems true.
Yep.
That is 100% what happened. That is what I recall. And I paid tribute to one of those in my brief highlight clip, my heartfelt, moving, short video.
You got Eli holding the Lombardi Trophy there.
Yeah, like I said, I covered all his career highlights. Literally, they were all there. The time he couldn't remember how many downs there were. The time he abused a poor defenseless tablet. And the time he threw an interception again, with the Patriots in basically the last major game of his Patriots career. And he was such a generous man that he gave the other team an interception and pick 6. These were the best Tom Brady moments I could find on the internet. I scoured 22-year career. That's all I could find. It's crazy. You know how it is, Dave. But look, no lack of effort, man. I did not spare any expense or any effort. You're all welcome.
If anybody knows what's good for them, they will thank you for it.
They should. Now, one last thing. In the spirit of a 22-year career, it deserves the right amount of time, and we've already given it enough, so we're moving on.
All right. Shall we continue with the football then? Let's do
the footballs before we proceed.
All right. So honestly, Carlos, this has probably been, and I think regardless of what happens a week from tomorrow, probably the best NFL playoff top to bottom of all the games combined ever.
I would agree with that.
Especially if just for drama's sake, even if you're neutral as well.
I would say it was the 2 best back-to-back rounds in particular. The 2 rounds, because after the divisional round, where everything came down to the wire, you thought, oh well, hopefully the championship games hold up, and they did. Both of them held up, actually. I'm not just saying that because I made money on both of those games, betting the line after the game started, because the line shifted and I took advantage of all that. That's not the reason why. But the reason why is that, both games are close. It could have gone either way. There were opportunities there for all 4 teams to potentially change their fate. And we ended up getting a very interesting and very compelling kind of, you're going to get a new champion, no matter how you slice it. You're going to get either the first Super Bowl for Matthew Stafford, which I think the Rams are certainly the favorites. I would say most of the audience is more interested in the Bengals just because they're the young upstarts. They had no business being there, but Joe Burrow is a young quarterback. And again, I'm not just saying this because on ComC I've been able to sell Joe Burrow cards like crazy. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's been good. What I'm saying is it's good for everyone, Dave.
Yeah.
And my pocketbook. But everyone is the important part.
But mostly your pocketbook.
Yes.
But everyone.
Yes. But everyone.
And your pocketbook.
And my pocketbook, yes.
But yeah, I mean, the one game, the result was kind of what we expected, right? Yeah. With the Rams winning. We both said that last week, that's what we thought was going to happen. Mm-hmm. But it didn't look that way for a lot of the game.
Yeah, it stayed competitive. San Francisco had chances. It's not like they could not have won. The Rams were the better team, but they sure as hell made it a lot harder than it needed to be. And And like I said, Cincinnati managed. They found a way. And good on them for that. I'm very impressed. So I think I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be exciting. I did put my wager in on the Bengals just because they're the underdog and the odds were good. But, would I be shocked if the Rams win? Not at all.
No, I wouldn't be shocked. But I honestly, the way things have been gone, I would not be shocked really either way.
No.
Right? Because, Cincinnati has played well. Let's be honest. They've had a great season. But you would expect that their, flaws, which are many, but mostly their offensive line, would be tragic enough to have ended their run. But so far, no. Joe Burrow and their kicker refuse to die. Right? It feels like, as we talked about last week, the shoot him again, his soul is still dancing, applies to the Cincinnati Bengals right now. Nice card, shiny.
Joey B. By the way, purchased a couple of weeks prior because this one still needed to go to ship my cards and then go over. So it's SGC graded 8.5. It's not a super high grade, but it's a nice one. These are called the Purple Shocks. Very nice looking cards. I think I'm going to hang on to this one for a little bit. We'll see what happens. Regardless, at the price point I bought it at, I'm very happy to hang on to it. Sweet card though. I was like, okay, well, at least I got a Joey B. I do have some other ones in ComC, but those ones I'm more content to flip. So those ones, and I've been able to do so and make a little bit of money on those. No matter what happens, it's good. If he has a good performance in the Super Bowl, that's good. If he wins somehow, my God, because technically that team can get better. That offensive line isn't very good. So technically they could come back and be better than this time around and actually be much more comfortable. They could be a favorite if the things fall the right way.
Yeah.
And right now the AFC is in upheaval. Like there's a lot of moving parts and things that can happen right now. It's very competitive in the AFC, but there's a lot of upheaval going on with potential quarterback shifting around. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I honestly, I think I'm going to take the Bengals to win.
Because straight up, or the line.
Straight up.
Okay.
Because why the hell not? The way things have gone, right?
All right.
I think yes, it's a great story, and the more likely outcome is still that the Rams win. I think this is one of those, if you play it, 100 times, like 90 some odd of those times, the Rams are going to win this game. But, they only play it once, and Cincinnati's got some kind of magic juice going on, and there's no pun intended there. So yeah, why not?
Well, also from what I understand, they're doing it for Harambe.
Are they?
Apparently. So the power of the meme is strong, Dave. It's difficult to fight the meme. LA might be doomed. They might not even realize how doomed they are yet.
It's quite possible.
So just putting that out there, just so you guys understand, they're doing it for Harambe. Be very careful.
Who needs more motivation than that, really?
Those are very powerful forces they're trifling with right now. Very careful, my friends. Be very careful.
Yeah.
But in that spirit, what I'll say is this. I've put my wager on Cincinnati. I would not be shocked if it's the Rams. The Rams would make sense if they can put together a complete game and not do anything disastrous.
Which they've been good at doing so far.
So far, they've been able to stay out of that danger, yes. For the most part. They had their moments, Against Tampa Bay, they were trying.
Yeah, they tried to give it away.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, let's just win.
Yeah, basically, if they can avoid that performance, then good chance. Because Cincinnati can be explosive. If you give them a chance. If LA can't put them away early and let Cincinnati hang around, things get more and more interesting as the game goes on. Mm-hmm. Because if you let them hang in there, you never know. They can take a swing and accidentally knock you out, and then all of a sudden you're on the losing side of things. You don't want to go overtime or do anything crazy with those guys because they're playing on house money right now. They've got nothing to lose.
No, exactly.
They're not supposed to be there
for sure.
Now, with all that said, for next week, I will have one of the things that I'm going to be doing a little research on this week, and I'm doing it for my live stream, but I'll bring it over here as well. I'll go and try to find some fun, juicy prop bets, the old stupid prop bets.
As we did. That's got to be we did it last year, so we might
got to find some nice dumb prop bets and have a little fun looking through them. And again, got to be real prop bets, so I'll scour around to see what the silliest ones that I can find are.
I like it.
So that'll be coming up.
Now, speaking of the NFL, because I don't want to get into a huge conversation about this, but I'm curious as to, do you see the end game of this, but as the way Carlos sees it? Okay? Do you think anything comes of Brian Flores suing the NFL?
I think the NFL will have a half-assed investigation, but if Flores decides to stick it through, I think it could force a complete revamp of the Rooney Rule because obviously it's not working. The problem is that you've got your biggest problem. I think Brian Flores is within his rights. I do think though the bigger accusation is the claim that he was offered money to throw games. That's probably the bigger consequence if he's able to establish that's a real thing. The other one is, so you've got a bit of a problem here. The NFL owners are the ones that technically get to decide who their personnel is. Okay, I'll interview 1,000 black coaches if you want. I'm picking that guy. Like, it makes no difference. Like, you can't force somebody to hire somebody they don't want to hire. Even if you're like, but these other people are more qualified. Have you watched some of these NFL teams? Some of them do not hire the qualified candidate. That's not how this works all the time. Sometimes they just pick the one they like. Jerry Jones basically had a slumber party with Mike McCarthy and decided he liked him. Mike McCarthy's a moron.
But he is a Super Bowl winner.
This is my point. He was blinded by the bling and shine of the one Super Bowl ring that Mike McCarthy was carried to. And now the last couple of seasons he's looking around like, this guy kind of sucks, right? And he's like, yes, Jerry, he sucks. He sucked for years. Literal year. Are you aware that he had Aaron Rodgers for like a decade and made it to one Super Bowl? And those teams were good. They should have just played the tape of the NFC Championship against Seattle. It's like, this man coached this team to this. Wait, so they were winning. Yes, they were winning comfortably. And then bad special teams. Yes. And poor defense. Yes. And poorly timed. Yes. And Mike McCarthy standing there like an idiot doing nothing while this is happening. Yes. And then they lose. Correct. I see. Aaron Rodgers is not a perfect individual. He is a very flawed human being. I wish he would shut up. Just in general, I wish he would shut up. However, Mike McCarthy's a moron. He's capable of failing anywhere he goes. Like, it doesn't matter. He sucks in general. So it's like, okay, that's what I mean. Like, these owners will hire whoever. And if Mike McCarthy gets fired, somebody else will convince themselves, it's just because Dallas has issues and stuff. He'll be fine with us. It's like, he's always sucked.
That's true though. Like, how many jobs though like happen where they have to interview X number of people, but they already know who's getting the job
All the time.
Right? I mean, in any career, any business, any institution, right? That happens all the time.
Well, one of the ways you do it in the white collar world is that sometimes you'll have a job and your intention is sort of to promote somebody, but you're creating a position. So basically you formulate the position so that basically only one person can meet the qualifications, but you're still required to interview other people. Basically you write it in. It's like, so according to these qualifications, you must be 5'9", be named Carlos, and be a complete bastard. Right. And it helps if you have a YouTube channel and sports cards. Yes. And you must be wearing an AEW hoodie. Correct. I see. But why did you hire George over here? It's like, look, we need to meet a quota. It's like, George is like, so I'm not getting the job? No, you were not getting the job. And I'm exaggerating for effect, but like literally they would script it in such a way where the credentials, the experience level, the specific things that they need to have done are so particular and so specific. It's like, you're literally just going to hire this person. This is the person you intend to hire. They're already in-house. Your intention is to do the interview process. Congratulations, you're hired. What were all these other interviews for? To meet HR's obligation.
Yeah.
We needed to do it. I'm sorry that we wasted your time, but we always intended to hire this guy. That was always the point.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is what it is. So anyway, all right. Shall we talk?
All right. I would like to ask you one more NFL question real quick.
All right, go ahead.
What do you think ends up happening with Aaron Rodgers?
He'll either leave or I will throw him into the river.
Okay.
One way or the other. Like, it has to end. Like, please just let it end for both my entertainment and did I mention my entertainment? These are two important things. For my entertainment, this needs to end. And you know why, Dave? I'd like to announce something. Effective this past week, I am officially a Green Bay Packers shareholder.
Actually,
I own a fucking NFL team, Dave.
Ooh.
And as such, I am kicking this man out. If he doesn't leave on his own, I am throwing him in the river.
How many shares?
Dude, they're expensive. I bought one share. It doesn't matter. The point is, I am the loud minority. But Carlos, you have one share. Shut the fuck up, you people.
But you are an owner.
I am kicking this man out. I officially own one share, and as such, I am using my rights. Rogers, you're getting out. And on your way out, take this. Ugh, what's that? Was that a dart? No, it's a vaccination needle. Fuck you. And you get that too.
Oh, Carlos, man.
I'm coming out
If
military.
anyone was wondering what ownership under Carlos would look like, you now have seen it.
No, but I still want to kick him out even though I gave him the vaccination. It's like, it's the principle of the thing. Get out. No, the reality is the combination of the team and the player have run their course. Like, I've explained it in this way, like, in all seriousness, jokes aside. But the militance is real. But the point is that as a combination, like, the franchise needs to move on and figure out what it needs to do. It can't keep dragging it out because you're kicking the can down the road. You're not looking at the future. Jordan Love probably isn't the future. So you need to figure out what that is. So dragging it out further and being like, you're not going to get further than where you are. You're not in an ideal cap situation. We touched on it last week. They're not in the worst cap situation, but they're not in a good cap situation. So it's not like the team is going to be likely in a rebuild anyway. So what's the point of bringing him back then?
Yeah.
You gain nothing. So it's like, let him go do something else. Let's see what happens. And then figure out your own situation. Get your own house in order.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's just the way I would look at it. It's like, look, at this point, you got to cut bait and move on. You tried. You had a window. The window has now slammed shut. It is over.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Either way, like I said, I'll pay attention to it. It'll be interesting. And I have no regrets of Aaron Rodgers' time in Green Bay. I wish it could have been more fruitful, but time's up. Let's move on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So we move on to some wrestling.
Let's do it.
All righty. So here's kind of what I want to touch on. So you didn't get a chance to see Rampage. I'm not going to go through all the pieces of it. The matches were good. I do recommend checking it out. It was a lot of fun. It looks like it looks like Adam Cole is starting to move to a more serious side of Adam Cole now that he had his match with Orange Cassidy, because the unsanctioned ones don't count. Because a great point was made on a podcast where I was listening to it, and they mentioned that think of who lost the lights out matches. Kenny Omega lost the lights out match to Jon Moxley. He became AEW World Champion. Britt Baker lost the lights out match to Thunder Rosa, which we'll touch on here in a second. Became AEW Women's Champion. And now Adam Cole has lost his lights out match. So honestly, the losers of the lights out match have done quite well in a lot of these cases, because it doesn't count against your record. It doesn't really hurt you. And by the way, it's a good way of letting somebody have a win without hurting the other one.
So are we gonna touch on the Thunder Rosa match?
Yeah. So specifically, what happened with that one? It was a decent little match for a bit, predominantly.
This is against Mercedes Martinez, right?
Mercedes Martinez, yeah. So basically, the end result of it, and I'm not really spoiling it. I would still recommend check out the match, because as you watch the match, you kind of get it. It ended up in a DQ. What was very funny about it, though, was that Chris Jericho on there, he goes, "A DQ in AEW? It's like, that never happens." It was very funny, a callback, because he's right. There were so many times where one of the wrestlers would like take liberties and the referee will kind of let it go, even though it's in front of their face. Very rarely do they go to a DQ. But the specific thing they did totally warranted a DQ. It was so obvious. It's like, you got to make it a DQ. By the way, the CM Punk MJF match is like the most egregious. That one made me laugh. So really quick, just backtracking to
All right, I did see this.
I like the match, but he choked him out with the tape, and then he's knocked out, and then, it looks like he's lost the match. MJF has won. And then he discovers the tape and then decides to restart the match. I'm like, no, he choked him with tape. That's a disqualification. And then you don't restart the match. The guy is not supposed to get right up after that. He was choked out. What the hell?
Exactly.
Anyway, bring it back to Rampage. So yeah, the disqualification made sense. What was the storyline piece, though, and I thought it was good because Rampage is getting some storyline progression pieces now, was that they did the backstage interview with Mercedes Martinez and kind of explaining what her motives were for doing that and whatever. And then saunters in Britt Baker with her entourage, with Jamie Hayter and Rebel. And she basically says, disqualification, that's not what we discussed. And then Jamie Hayter looks at her and is like, what do you mean not what we discussed? So like, dissension. Ooh. But the same thing is like, yeah, it's like, somebody wasn't getting the job done, so I asked somebody to take care of Thunder Rosa. basically. So basically, they had a little back and forth. So now Britt Baker is like, it was me, Austin. It was me all along. Now, I don't mind this because it gets us to the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa thing that we were talking about. So we have now arrived. So this is our impetus now to lead us down this path. Mercedes Martinez is still involved, but that was our bridge. Now, problem. You know how when you're driving down the highway, Dave? I don't do this very much, but let me use this analogy.
All right.
So you know when you're driving down the highway, let's say we got 5 lanes,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to go off in this exit.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, you know this exit's coming up. Do you commonly make a hard turn, cross 4 lanes of highway, and then go to the exit?
course
Or
not.
do you move a lane at a time, making your way and merge into the lane?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we got to where we wanted to go. We hit the exit we wanted to hit. Tony Khan just crossed about 8 lanes of the highway. I'm like, but I understand that now it's going to make more sense. But where I'm lost is why Britt Baker suddenly now at this specific moment in time now has interest in screwing over Thunder Rosa. They have beef from before. That's true. And I'm sure now you can fill in the blanks if you want to, that she maybe decided that Thunder Rosa was unworthy of having any title based on her previous beef. Therefore, she screwed her out of the other title. But now as a result, Thunder Rosa is going to come after her. So you can still get there. But like we missed a step. We didn't leisurely move a lane at a time to reach our exit. We just shot straight across traffic to hit our exit sign. Mm-hmm. Now, we're still going to get where we need to go, but I thought it was a very strange way of getting there.
What would you have liked to have seen in the middle?
What we needed was a reason for them to at least cross paths. At the bare minimum, maybe before the TBS Championship final, maybe you have Britt Baker walk by and dismissively say, "Oh, maybe you can finally win a championship match." Something like you plant the seeds with something like an inadvertent like throwaway line that doesn't come into play right away, and then they have like a quick back and forth, and she goes, "I'm going to win this championship." Nah, I don't know about that. You're a loser. You don't win championships. And then, flashes the championship in her face and then walks away.
Yeah.
And then she loses the TBS championship, and it turns out Britt Baker, the fix was in to make sure she wouldn't win.
Right. Because Mercedes Martinez is working for Britt Baker.
That one little thing would have been enough to give me the seed that then leads to the next piece.
Mm-hmm. All right, I see. So now that having not watched it, so is Mercedes Martinez firmly in DMD camp?
Right now, she's kind of she's a mercenary for hire at the moment.
Okay.
Because she and Baker had a little bit back and forth about her tactics, and that according to Baker, she didn't quite get the job done. And then Mercedes Martinez is kind of like basically like, "Hey, watch yourself. I'll get the job done." So it's not like this, friendly alliance. It's kind of like a business proposition.
Right. And it's also, I think, further proof too of what you're saying here is that why you should be working for AEW and booking for them, or at least on the booking team.
Yeah, I think that it goes back to what I said earlier. I think Tony Khan's biggest problem is that he's trying to be everything at the same time. I don't think he intentionally misses details like that. And considering the amount of moving parts, I think he's actually on the whole done a very commendable job. Because a lot of these storylines do move at different speeds and there is some nuance and some intricacy in it. But it's like, when you got a movie and you hire somebody whose job is to be like the continuity director.
Yeah.
Their job is just to make sure like, oh, by the way, that drink was on the table here in this shot, but now it's over here on this shot. You got to put the drink over there on that table so that it matches. Otherwise, it just shifted across the table for no reason.
Yep.
It's small details, but you got to have somebody there to be like, oh, by the way, you didn't set up why. We know they don't like each other, but they haven't been in contact in a while. Why does she suddenly care now? Now we have to fill in the blanks retroactively.
That's fair.
Yeah, now we have to fill in the blanks retroactively and explain why. Again, it's going to be very easy once we get into it and the promos back and forth and all that. They're going to have no problem drinking up the past, and they've got reasons to hate each other.
And I think they'll both do a good job of that, too.
Yeah. But you needed a reason that started this particular, because right now Britt Baker was the champion. She was going for the other championship. She wasn't a direct threat right this second. So why did you decide right now to do something about it?
Yeah.
My one little suggestion would have bridged the gap and gotten you there. Maybe she decided she doesn't deserve any championship. Doesn't matter what it is, even if it's not mine. There you go. Simple.
Yeah.
Small tweak, It's enough. It would get the job done.
Makes
But
sense.
good. But good. I'm happy that they use Rampage to further a storyline. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think it was a good card too, overall.
Mm-hmm.
Minus, I mean, I don't have a huge, I'm not a huge fan of anyone in the Dark Order. But other than that,
Well,
but,
Dark Order needs to figure out what it's going to do with itself. But, it is what it is.
they're kind of basically just enhancement talent at this point.
They are. So we'll get more. We'll be back, and we'll have some more time. So it'll be, Thunder Rosa against DMD.
Nice. I love how you just, now, did you have these ready? Like, just read the cards ready to go to show? Or you just are so quick to just know this card is in this slot right now?
I'm Carlos. I'm ready at all times. It's like, what's that? Demolition! Boom! No.
I wish, man. I wish.
There, you're going to have Brody Lee.
Yay, Brody Lee.
Yeah. No, these are from the newest pickups. I picked this up this week. I got the package in with a bunch of the AEW cards. So I had them.
Also, I told you about the wrestling mistake that I made this week, but I will tell the audience as well. Right? So we get Royal Rumble, right? Which was, yes, Wardlow. Actually, I have a comment about that too in a second.
Yep.
Which was entirely predictable. Right? Like it's interesting listening to Twitter, or not listening, looking at Twitter throughout the thing, and people are like, pretty much the Twitterverse knows exactly what's going to happen, right? It was like as soon as Brock Lesnar lost to Bobby Lashley, like he's coming out in the Royal Rumble, going to win the Royal Rumble at number 30. Boom, that's what happens, right? And then it's like Ronda Rousey's going to come in, she's going to win it, and she did. She came in at 28. But then I was like, man, I love Ronda Rousey, so I was like, I'm going to watch Monday night because Ronda Rousey's going to be there for sure. I'm going to watch Raw, and I have not watched Raw like a full, and I didn't even watch the full thing in a long time. So I turned it on live. I had set it to PVR, Carlos. All right, because I knew I did not have 3 hours on my Monday to sit down and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll PVR it, but I watched a little bit, and what do I watch? Like, so literally this is what I turn on to. I'm like, okay, what's on? You never know, because I'm not super familiar with everybody on the roster, right? Like, you know the main people, but so it's like, okay, so here's Riddle, and was it Chad Gable?
Yeah, Chad Gable.
Doing a scooter race.
Yep.
And I'm like, the fuck? Like on it, you know what I mean? Like, as someone who has not watched the show in a long time, none of this wants me to watch it again. Right?
The important thing, Dave, real quick before you continue. The important thing is that Matt Riddle was a former professional MMA fighter, like a legit fighter, and Chad Gable was an Olympian. Please continue.
Yes. True.
That's what we're using them for, though, just to be clear.
Okay.
Please continue.
So, all right. So I watched it, right? And I'm like, what the hell? Okay. It's like, let's see. And I kept going. It's like, next segment. I don't know if this is actually in order, but these are the things that happen, right? Next segment. Alexa Bliss is talking to a therapist about Lily. And he has a Lily. And she thinks it's a real Lily. But it's not actually the real Lily. Or is it? And I'm like...
But you can buy it at www.shopzone.com.
But yes. They did make sure to point that out.
Yes.
Right? And it's like... Oh, okay. Right? And anyway, and then Ronda Rousey comes out and is like, the thing that everyone thinks I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you on Friday, which probably means she's not going to wrestle Becky Lynch because, Becky Lynch isn't on SmackDown. I was like, okay, cool. And then Lita comes out because reasons, aka Saudi blood money. But I'm watching, so I didn't watch the whole thing. I fast forward through a lot. But here's my take on watching Raw. Okay, so for the most part, not always, but for the most part, the individual wrestling in the matches is good. Right? People know what they're doing and they can put on a good match. Okay, your level of how good you think that is, okay. There's obviously room for debate in there. But what is supposed to draw me back to watch this shit again?
Yeah.
Right? Like, none of what's going on here is remotely interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Lita versus Becky Lynch would have been a great match if Becky Lynch was in the Attitude Era. But she's not. And Lita's 46.
Yeah.
I
think I wanted to let it sit for a second. But the point is that I want you to think about this thing. When Lita retired originally, I think she was around 30 when she retired.
30?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So this, she retired years and years ago. Like her last real match, and I think I had it. I was curious. I wanted to kind of make sure that I had my facts straight because I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but I was pretty sure that I remembered the general idea here, and so I've got it here. So her last real match, was in 2006. She lost the women's championship to Mickie James in 2006 in Survivor Series.
Okay.
And then she came out, I think, in a Raw promo, and her send off was to have, I think it was Crime Time. It was this like gimmick where they like were hoodlums because Vince McMahon, and they like stole stuff from her locker and like were trying to sell it to the crowd. So her final send off is that she's mad at the crowd, they hate her, and then they humiliate her, and that's the last we see of her for 6 years. WWE. That's one of your best women's champions. Send her off like that. The next time she shows up is the 1000th episode of Raw in July 2012. You didn't do any. She had a match against Heath Slater. It was a comedy thing where they had the legends coming back. That was the part of the thing.
Okay.
Then she didn't come back again for 6 more years until Royal Rumble 2018. You have 12 years there where you use her twice. And now at 46, you want her to have a match. Now, lest I be accused of being sexist, I don't want... Bill Goldberg's coming back. He's going to be in Saudi Arabia against Roman Reigns. I don't want to see his ass have a match either. I want to be fair about this. Goldberg has no business having a match. Lita has no business having a match, especially a match for a title. No.
Which she's not going to win.
No, but regardless, like, it makes no sense. Why? It's the greatest indictment on your current division that you have to go to a legend that hasn't wrestled an actual, like, legitimate match in years. She's made the odd, like, tag team thing. There was, like, a 2018 match where Lita and Trish Stratus, who's also 46. I'm waiting for the Trish Stratus return because, of course, you need it. Like, why?
Yeah,
Why?
Carlos, yeah.
Again, her last real match in her original run when she was actually wrestling regularly was 2006. It is 2022. That is 16 years between like when she was active and now.
And I mean, I'm not saying she can't wrestle now.
I don't think it matters. Like,
Well, exactly.
It's not necessary.
That is the point, Carlos. That is the point right there. It doesn't matter.
Because
right? And so anyone who's like, I don't get when they're like, oh my goodness, like you get hyped up for this match, right? Why?
yeah, the thing
Like,
is, the
Becky
reason,
Lynch is gonna win, or
Yeah,
it's gonna be or something's gonna happen. Like she's not gonna lose the title.
no, she's not. But the reason I'm using the Goldberg comparison is because Goldberg, the last 3 or 4 matches he's done on his contract have all been title matches. Again, undeserved. He just kind of shows up and gets a title match. Lita decided to come back, and they did the thing with her, and then they gave her a title match. The only comparable we have in AEW right now is Sting, who basically is a manager most of the time. He'll do the odd thing here and there, but it'll usually be like a tag team match where Darby Allin, where they're like doing a thing. He's not wrestling for titles. Billy Gunn is 50. He's not wrestling for titles.
No.
All their older guys are just there. They're doing their thing. They're just chilling and, hanging out.
Or like mentoring people.
Yeah.
I mean, they serve a purpose.
Billy Gunn's
right?
prominent purpose is to accompany the Gun Club, his sons, and to be a trainer. 99% of his work is to be a trainer. Is Billy Gunn in shape? He is. He's actually in tremendous shape. Can he go and have a match for a little bit? Yeah. You know who else can still have a match and do a pretty good job? Dustin Rhodes. Mm-hmm. He's in amazing shape right now. But day to day, he's not doing that. He did have a match with Sammy Guevara for the interim championship, but he was always going to lose.
And it was a great match.
He could have a great match. Good psychology. The idea was to make Sammy look good, give him a thing so that he could have that match with Cody, have the blow off. Sammy's walking around with 2 titles. Great. It's fine.
Yeah.
But there's a way to do it and a way to do it. Like the Lita thing is like, yeah, you just shoehorned her in. There's literally no reason for her to be there. You weren't there. The Dustin Rhodes was a fill-in because Cody had a COVID thing, so he was in protocol. Otherwise, it would have been Cody at that moment.
Yeah.
So the thing is that you basically forced this. You made something out of nothing. Lita was not an accident. They didn't throw her in to replace somebody last minute. It was literally she was shoehorned in. It's like, hey, Lita, you doing anything? No. You want some money? Sure.
Pretty much.
Look, you do you. You do whatever you want. I'm not going to blame Lita for taking the money. But at the same time, it's like, I don't see the value of this. This is a filler. This is a waste of time. It's not compelling. It's not interesting. I don't care. Not now. Like, if you wanted to do a match, a little comeback tour for her, you could have done it 5 years ago. 10 years ago. Even if you had done it 10 years ago, she would have only been 5 years out of the ring.
No, for sure.
You could have done that if you wanted to. You clearly didn't. You didn't care about it. Why should we care now? Whatever, man. Whatever makes you happy. So yeah, so now you got that. You got the Ronda Rousey Charlotte thing.
But Carlos, are you not sports entertained?
No. Not so much. No. Yeah, it pretty much what's the word that we're looking for? Sucks. All of it. Sucks. Every last part of it.
I
sucks.
honestly felt from what I was able to catch and read and look at and whatever, I feel like they can still put on a good pay-per-view. I feel the Royal Rumble pay-per-view top to bottom, minus I guess your mixed tag match with the Miz and Maurice versus Beth Phoenix and Edge, which was kind of pointless in my opinion. But the rest of it, seemed like, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins was a good match, right? Becky Lynch, Doudrop was an okay match, right? The Rumbles themselves were pretty good and entertaining. So you can still put on a
question.
good...
Where did you get that from? Did you watch it or did you hear about it?
I heard about it.
Okay.
'Cause I did not actually watch it, but
Okay. What sources did you use for that, just out of curiosity?
just randomness.
Okay. So I have talked to some other folks that did watch the pay-per-view and pretty much just universally panned every single thing that happened on it, minus the opening match.
That was the Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins.
And Seth Rollins, yeah. And nobody really liked the ending because it set up the rest. Here's where, without getting into super detail because there's too much, the women's match predominantly was thrown together. I did the math. Out of 30 women, I want to say that, I've got the list in front of me. Okay, so in the 30 woman field, I'll read you some names. And the names I'm going to read specifically are women who are not on the main roster full time.
Okay.
Not. Okay?
Mhm.
I'm not going to count Ronda Rousey because she's going to be around for a little bit. I'm not going to count her, so I'm intentionally going to leave her out.
Fair enough.
Okay. Alicia Fox, Brie Bella, Cameron. Can you do me a favor as I go? Can you count?
Yep, I got you. You got 3 so far.
Okay. So here we go. Ivory, Kelly, Lita, Melina, Michelle McCool, Mickey James, Molly Holly, Nikki Bella, Sarah Logan, Summer Rae. Yeah, Summer Rae. How many you got?
13. So almost half the Rumble.
Almost half the Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How is it?
30.
Is it a 30-man
It's 30.
women as well?
It's 30. Yep.
Yeah.
There were 30 women in the Rumble, 13 of 30. And I'm not counting Ronda Rousey, even though I could, because at the end of her current contract, she'll be gone again. I could count Ronda Rousey because she's basically going to be semi-full-time-ish for now to get through what they're trying to do. But the point is, 13 for sure out of 30 are not on their active roster, which is to say you didn't want to use a single person from NXT. You didn't want to use anybody else on your roster, all the people you fired, and you couldn't even fill in the Rumble. They even invited Nia Jax, who turned them down. They invited the Iconics, who turned them down.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Why wouldn't you use NXT roster?
Because NXT is now considered to be developmental and inferior.
Yeah, but okay, but even
Per
then,
WWE
still,
mandate.
why not? If you're trying to develop, if it's actually that, okay, regardless about the inferior part, if you're trying to develop people, your hope is that we have these people and they are going to be stars. That's what you want to keep your company moving.
Allegedly.
Yeah, sure. Why would you not want people to be exposed to them?
Because
Because
it's alleged.
not everybody watches NXT, right? Like it doesn't have great ratings, which okay, fine, whatever. Like it has this hardcore fan base, but it's also NXT 2.0 now. So it's got a different fan base maybe than it did before. Right? But there are some at the bare minimum, there are like people who look the part.
Well,
I mean,
you do.
I don't watch NXT, so I can't really comment anybody's in-ring work.
Well,
But
here's the
what I
funny
would
thing.
say,
Real quick,
what I
hold
say
on,
is
Dave.
this
Dave,
is
stop. Real quick, just to be clear, point of order. The current NXT Women's Champion, Mandy Rose, was on your main roster. She literally could have been brought in for the specific thing as the current NXT Women's Champion, who was on your main roster for years.
doesn't make any sense, Carlos.
I know this is why I wanted to make this point. So like, I understood what you were saying, but I'm like, I'm going to push back. They half this thing are all part-timers, quote unquote, divas legends. And I got the best statistic about Summer Rae, who was sold as a legend. Legend, Dave, legend.
Mm-hmm.
She was listed as a legend. It was in her little lower third. Okay.
Yes, I know that she got a lot of pushback on that, even though that wasn't her doing.
I understand. All right, Summer Rae, who is the same age that we are, 1983. She's actually younger than we are because November. But she had 246 matches and 7 on pay-per-view in her entire career. 7 pay-per-view matches in her career. Now,
and considering there's like a pay-per-view every other week.
Now, in WWE, here's the fun part. Okay, so in WWE, in her time in WWE, she won a grand total of, this is not just singles matches, this is tag team matches, every combination of match. In WWE, she won a total of 43 matches in her entire career and lost 146. She lost 76% of the matches she was ever involved in.
Okay.
Including developmental, she lost 70% of the matches she's ever been involved in. But somebody, I think, did and she's only won 1 pay-per-view match ever and lost 6 out of that 7 appearances. I think somebody actually went into the numbers deeper and looked at singles matches because she was in tag team matches all the time. Apparently, in her WWE career on the main roster, apparently, I can't verify this exact number, but I believe from what I understand. Would you like to guess how many matches she actually won as a singles competitor in her entire WWE full-time run?
I'm gonna go with 5.
You're very close. 7. Legend! She won 7 matches ever as a singles competitor. Legend!
Honestly, if you have somebody who can still go, like for example, okay, if there was no other build-up, whatever, and the fact that they released a whole bunch of them ahead of time, which I think is a stupid move too, in my opinion, but that's whatever. Okay, but if you you like the product, you've been watching the product for a while, and you're watching the Rumble, and all of a sudden with no further warning, like you didn't know about this ahead of time, there weren't really rumblings, somebody like Alita comes out and goes in there for a while, eliminates the people, shows off, she still got it, whatever, or at least looks half decent. That's exciting, right? Like, the odd person who comes out like that, who isn't just, like, cool, I can get behind that, but not at the expense of, and if it's, 1, 2, a handful, sure. When it's nearly 50% of the entire Rumble, it's like, what does that say about any of these other people? The only thing that I think, Carlos, overall, the message we should all be taking from this is Bayley needs to get healthy and back as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think that's going to help. All right, best trivia question ever.
All right.
Legend. The Brooklyn Brawler.
Who was on the 80s Wrestling, the podcast this week. I did not talk to. I did not call him this week. He's got some great stories, though.
Fair enough. Dave, I told you how many matches Summer Rae won. I told you how many matches on pay-per-view she won. Now, here's the question. More or less, does the Brooklyn Brawler have more wins on pay-per-view than Summer Rae? Or the same, or less?
Okay, so I'm going to say more.
Okay.
Because it's hard to go. Maybe let's go less. He's never won a pay-per-view match.
He has won 2 pay-per-view matches. The Brooklyn Brawler is twice as good as WWE legend Summer Rae on pay-per-view.
You know. But I also think, first of all, I don't know. I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, the Brooklyn Brawler is still making a good living off being the Brooklyn Brawler.
He's the
but
Brooklyn Brawler, man. He's literally a jobber to the stars.
yeah, but he's also like in his interview, he's like, yeah, that's what I did. He's like, that was my job.
I
He's
understand.
like, he's cool with that though, right? He's
My
like,
question though
I did my
question though
job.
is, by the numbers, is he a legend?
No, but if you're talking about by the numbers, but I mean, is he someone? You know what I mean? Like, there are a few people, because this is one of the things that came out in this thing a while ago. This enhancement talent, 80s wrestling, the podcast, right? But there are certain people that's their job, and they do it well enough that they become something. Okay, like for example, I will give you an example of this. Okay, so Barry Horowitz would be an example of that.
I know. Yep.
But here's my favorite example of this. Well, and I'll tell you why. You'll see why in a second. Okay, enhancement talent, SD Jones. All right, why? So it's again, SD Jones. That's his job. He's an talent. He's going to win every once in a while, but basically his job is to lose to the big star, right? Make them look good. Okay, he had not one, but 2 LJN figures, Carlos.
Yep.
Right? How many action figures does Summer Rae have? Probably more than that.
A lot, actually. Probably a lot. She's a Total Divas legend. Does that help?
But I feel like the who cares sign should just be brought out.
But you're getting my point. My point is, like, WWE filled the roster with this. Okay, and one more point. I'd be belaboring it. I'll move on. But quickly, one more thing. Even in the course of what you're doing, the Rumble field already, I just outlined is weak. Okay, I outlined it was weak. When Ronda came in, it invalidated everything they had done. This entire exercise was pointless. But forgetting all that, even inside of it, normally the Royal Rumble has these little moments where you have interactions between some participants that have some association, something. You play into it. Even if it's not going to play into the outcome of the match, you sit there and like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so were tag team partners at one point, and they have a moment or something.
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. For sure.
Yeah. They literally skipped every single version of that. The first person to come into the Rumble, I think, was Sasha Banks.
That's correct.
The second person to come into the Rumble was Melina. Melina making her comeback after all the years. They gave her the whole entrance and the whole bit. She did the whole bit. I think she lasted about 30 seconds and Sasha Banks eliminated her. There wasn't even any wrestling. It was basically just a quick moment, start the match, ring the bell. Within about 30 seconds, Melina's out.
Not quite the, 3 seconds or 2 seconds of Santino Marella when he was eliminated by Kane, but
yeah. But the point wasn't to do like a record elimination. The point was, though, that like now there's a possibility there was a bit of a botch there or something that could have happened. But the point is, you put her in that position. She's wrestled a little bit here and there in NWA and stuff, but she's not regularly wrestling all the time.
Right.
So if you're going to do it, you could have Shane wrestle for a minute and a half, let her stay in there for 3 or 4 minutes, and then boot her out.
Yeah.
Give her a thing since she came back. They didn't do that. They had a quick, reunion of Team Bella because Lord knows everybody remembers that fondly. So that was a thing, I guess. But then you had the Bella Twins eliminate some of the current roster people. Some of the ones that could have... Sasha Banks didn't really last that long. She was eliminated. She was basically irrelevant in that Rumble. A lot of the ones who would... Normally there's somebody who like goes the distance and is there for a while, and that's kind of their story, that they hang in the Rumble for a while. All the ones that would normally be contenders for that, they didn't do it. The Rumble structure was completely off. Sarah Logan came back, and she and Liv Morgan could have had a moment there. It was like almost a moment, and then the Bella Twins ruined that and ended it. But the Bella Twins aren't going to come back and do anything full-time, so it's not going to lead to anything. Basically, every elimination that could have potentially had something there was in a situation where it's not going to lead to a match at all. Either it's a part-timer who isn't going to be around, or there was no reason for it to happen, or it could have been somebody else doing that elimination where it might have had storyline implications, but it didn't. Basically, everything that happened inside the Rumble, up until Ronda Rousey showed up, was irrelevant. Nothing led to anything. There's no stories that came out of it. There's no feuds that were extended. Nothing occurred that had any relevance to anything. And then when you're done, Ronda Rousey won. Oh, and the WrestleMania sign caught fire twice, which is a bad omen.
For sure. Hilarious.
Yeah, and the men's Rumble was basically the same thing. A lot of storylines that could have normally been... Look at it this way. We talked about when Big E became champion and how, some folks use that as, when AEW is having its big swole controversy. It's like, oh, well, Big E's champion or whatever. What has happened since then? Big E barely won as champion. He got beaten. When he got beaten, they had a when Lashley, I think, won I forget, it was Lashley. Well, it doesn't matter. Whoever won the title off of Big E. It was a match. It was a multi-person match. Anybody could have taken the pin. Big E took the pin. Then he couldn't get the title back. Then he really wasn't in position anymore. Now he's back as a tag team with Kofi Kingston. And in the Royal Rumble, Big E, former world champion, very recently was eliminated like a piece of trash in about a minute. Nothing matters. So the structure of the Rumble, so even if the Rumble isn't the best, normally what makes the Royal Rumble good is the structure. Because the Rumble match can create, there's going to be a winner. There's going to be the final group of people. Well, whatever happens, that's one storyline. But then there are normally storylines inside the Rumble that help you then build out the feuds and whatever, this, that, and the other. Hey, you weren't supposed to eliminate me. I thought we were working as a team. Now we're going to feud. Whatever. Lots of opportunities for that. Every single one of them was squandered. Nothing came out of either Rumble, and those two matches combined to take up 2 hours of the show. So 2 hours of the show were irrelevant. Didn't matter. The sign caught fire twice. And on top of everything else, one of the final four in the men's Rumble, Shane McMahon. A complete waste of a spot. Shane McMahon's been fired. Shane McMahon apparently was backstage working the creative. He was arguing with everybody and thing, and he actually helped change the Rumble a bunch of times, so they completely screwed up the structure of it. He basically fucked the Rumble himself, left himself in as one of the final four, and now he's gone, so it doesn't matter. There's no carryover. And he eliminated Kevin Owens, so Kevin Owens doesn't get a feud or anything. Like, none of this mattered. All of it's stupid and none of it matters. That would be.
It's okay. Once Disney takes over, they'll fix it all.
Yeah, but you're getting my point? So, like, both those Rumble matches, like, they failed to do, and this was a conversation we had last night.
Go ahead.
I was saying we had this conversation last night because we were talking about some wrestling for a while, and some of the folks in the chat, wanted to talk about it a little bit. We did some back and forth because one of my buddies was opening up some AEW. They got the blasters. I'm waiting for Canada to get some blasters. I'd love to open some packs. That'll be fun. But as we were chatting about the wrestling stuff in general, they were giving me feedback on the Rumble from their perspective. None of them liked it. They basically were like, I hadn't ordered a pay-per-view in 2.5 years. The Rumble is normally one of the ones that interest me. I feel like I wasted my money. And that was kind of the sentiment, is that how do you screw up the Rumble? The Rumble is usually the one thing per year. One pay-per-view is like, you look forward to it. You get some surprises. There are almost no surprises. Shane McMahon was the surprise in the Rumble. That sucks, bro.
Especially since he's no longer with the company. So here's the thing. Do you think if it gets sold to Disney, do you think that fixes things?
Nick Khan's still going to be in charge.
Maybe.
No, he'll be in charge. Any transfer, he's basically the guy now. When Vince dies, Nick Khan becomes the guy. So
the answer is no. It's doomed for all eternity.
It will get progressively worse. They will move to a crew that will be paid $1.97, and they'll be paid in food stamps. And the quality will reflect that. But the good news is
the ratings, though, Carlos?
Well, here's the thing. The ratings don't seem to really matter. The ratings have been going down for years. And USA and Fox.
But they're drawing more than AEW, Carlos.
Hasn't helped. Right now, they've got, I think what a lot of folks don't understand, and I've explained this a couple different ways, and I'll explain it briefly again. People forget when WCW ended, there were still like 2 million people watching that show. And WCW had done almost everything in its power to alienate its audience. It had reset things a bunch of times. It invalidated championship reigns. It handed out the world championship like a hot potato. Everybody and their brother. David Arquette was world champion at one point. And that was before the real decline. Like, the David Arquette actually wasn't the low point. Like, that came soon after.
Right.
But everything they had done, WCW was still drawing a decent rating. But WWE's thing is that rating keeps going down, down, down. AEW is a newer company. There are some people that will stubbornly cling on to WWE. Doesn't matter what they do. They will watch it because it's WWE, out of habit or spite or whatever it's going to be. And AEW isn't for everybody. It's a different product. It's not perfect. It's got its moments. I like the majority of what they're doing. So that's why I watch it. I don't like anything WWE is doing at this point. I don't care about anything they've done. So, like, I'm not going to watch it. But the rating doesn't seem to be sufficiently low to reflect that USA and Fox have made between USA and Fox, they pay WB $450 million a year for the privilege of showing that shit show. $450 million.
I feel Fox at least is getting more out of that, I think, because SmackDown is a better show.
Marginally. And it's not getting better. It's pretty much Roman Reigns or bust on that show. And going forward, Saudi Arabia shows is $50 million a show. They make $100 million a year. They do 2 Saudi Arabia shows a year. The next pay-per-view, the Elimination Chamber, is in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That's $50 million in their pocket.
Hence my references to Saudi blood money.
Yeah. So that's $550 million, Dave, a year in those things that I just outlined. By the way, the old WWE Network / Peacock, because it was bought by NBC Universal to show on Peacock, they're going to pay them $1 billion over 5 years. That is $200 million a year. That means they make $750 million a year, even if they have negative ratings. Even if people actively avoid the channel. They delete the channel from their boxes so that they cannot possibly watch it, and it counts as a negative rating out of spite. $750 million no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to tell them you're doing it wrong when you're making money no matter what.
True.
So that's the game we're playing right now. The good news, I guess, AEW isn't complaining about that too much, because if they get their next network deal and they can bump it up to 100, 150 million, that they're already, I think they're already operating okay, but that would I think that would comfortably put them in the black. So from their perspective, it's like, okay, well then that just means that we can point out and say like, well, our rating is actually within a pretty good percentage of this, and our engagement is higher, and we're getting the good demographics and stuff, and our audience is engaged. They seem to be enjoying this, that, and the other thing. That's cool. So if they are good partners with TBS and TNT, and they provide another hour of Rampage, I don't see why they couldn't get a better TV rights deal going forward. And if they do, then that'll make AEW more solvent and more solid, and it means that they'll be able to continue doing their thing. I don't want them to hire everybody in creation, but if they have an extra hour of Rampage and they're able to make it a live show weekly, they can split the crews, and it allows people to be on one show one week, then the other show the other week, and vice versa, and back and forth. And you don't have to have everybody be on every show, and you can use more of your roster.
Yeah.
So I think there's a path forward. So it's not a bad thing. I think there's a path forward.
For sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. But like I said, it's not.
I just hope that path comes through Canada sooner rather than later.
I think that would be good. Yeah. I think, unfortunately, I think WWE is a bit of a lost cause at this stage. They screwed up the Rumble, Dave. That is like the unforgivable sin in my world. The Rumble is the one show that, as bad as WWE would be, that I would at least consider ordering. I couldn't even bother to make the phone call. As soon as I looked at it on paper, I'm like, this is going to suck. And everything I've seen confirmed everything I thought. There you go.
All right.
Cool. So I think that's good. Anything else?
This is like a good place to wrap up episode 123.
Yep. Well, go to 1, 2, 3. So we'll move on from there. We'll see what happens here, and then hopefully, upcoming, we'll be able to do those prop bets before the next Super Bowl, before the Super Bowl happens, and we'll see. We'll all hope and pray for a good game. That'll be the key. And I'll let everybody know next week. I may be appearing in a post Super Bowl show. There may be a post Super Bowl live stream that somebody else is hosting that I may pop in on. Just
Nice.
to say hey. If I do though, I'll see if it fits properly still. If I do, I may go on sporting a Red Blacks jersey because
like it.
spite.
Why not?
You know I'm a big fan of wearing the jersey ironically in the wrong thing. I already wore my Favre Jets jersey on my live stream last night.
I like it.
It was a beautiful thing. Wow.
Chef's kiss.
Yes. And with that said, I have 2 things to leave us on. Number 1, to Tom Brady. Screw Tom Brady. Number 2, Fish Boy, you're next. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The Fish Boy is going to get it. He of the war. I'm not done with you, Fish Boy. You haven't retired yet. Until you retire, you will not be free of
probably
me.
a few more years before he does.
And unlike WWE, our feud has a payoff. I feuded with Tom Brady for years. I am claiming victory, and I will be there if need be. It's like, but it's my election to Ken. You still suck, and your speech is terrible. Are you really going to trash? You suck.
Who let that guy in here?
Long-term booking, Dave. Long-term booking.
Amazing.
So that'll be it for us. You can catch it on YouTube is the best spot to get the whole impact, the whole effect. And otherwise, iTunes and Spotify. iTunes, Spotify, and I think Google Play still, theoretically. Wherever you get your podcasts. So that'll be it for me and Dave. Until next time. That is this episode of the Unnecessary Nonsense Podcast.